It's home sweet home from the Star in Frisco as Special Edition is back in the Lone Star State. So are the Dallas Cowboys as we get ready for this 2023 season. Training camp is now in the books, the preseason in the books as well, as we welcome you back into the Globe Life studios. Alongside Isaiah Stanback, Barry Church back on Special Edition. We've got Nate Newton as well. I'm Kyle Yeomans alongside these three former Cowboys. Gentlemen, it's great to be back here. Feels like yesterday we were wrapping up the 2022 season, but definitely a lot of excitement going into 23. Barry, I know this is the first time on the show. I'll let you start things off.
Okay, appreciate it.
What have you learned about this team so far through training camp?
That once again, this defense is the strength of this team. And when you look at it, the depth they have along that defensive line, even in that secondary, it's unmatched. And I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys off the edge, Micah Parsons, D-Law, what they can do coming off the edge against opposing quarterbacks is going to be a scary sight.
I'm looking forward to seeing this offense and this keep-away form of offense that they're running. They're calling it, there's this Texas toast, Texas West. I don't know, Texas toast. Anyways, this West Coast offense, all right, is going to be a good thing for this offense, especially for their number one quarterback, Dak Prescott. It's going to enable him to really just sit back, make the right decisions, help these chains move down the field, and really take away his ability or the lack thereof of trying to turn the ball over.
Mine is not so much offense, defense. It's Jalen Tolbert, my friend. I apologize. I picked at you every chance I had, but boy, so far have you had a great training camp.
Yeah. We'll just call it constructive criticism from Nate Newton. That's what it was. He wasn't picking on Jalen Tolbert. He was just constructively getting him into the right mindset going into year number 2. And that's going to have to continue to grow as well. Speaking of going into year number 2, that's going to be the first time we'll see Demarvion Overshown, the rookie linebacker out of Texas. Third-round pick will not see the field as a rookie as he suffers a torn ACL in Saturday's game against Seattle. Isaiah, you and I were in the booth during the injury whenever it occurred, and it's unfortunate because he was trending in the right direction. It looked like a versatile piece for this defense.
No, he was definitely going to be a key element for these guys. I mean, he was going to be one of those core guys that was going to be able to come in and rotate in at that second level. They listed him as a linebacker, but he obviously had the versatility of the safety as well, and he is the prototypical Dan Quinn guy, versatility and high energy.
I tell you what, I did not watch this guy the first 2 practices, but after the preseason game, the first preseason game, I had him as a core starter. This guy is elite. He can run, and even when he makes mistakes, it seems to turn out perfect.
Yeah, you hate to see this happen. I mean, this guy, as you've seen, each practice, he seemed to get better and better and better. And the writing was on the wall. I mean, you could see Dan Quinn using him as that chess piece with his versatility out there, coming off the edge, playing that second level, being that hybrid linebacker type safety role. So you hate to see this happen, but he's in great hands with Jim Maurer and Britt Brown, those guys, the best training staff in the National Football League. And hopefully this is a small bump on the road to success.
And, of course, he has a mindset overall that he's going to have to continue to grow as a rookie player that's going through an injury like this. He's got the right mindset, though. Here's what Demarvion Overshown had to say following the injury.
Like I say, I'm looking forward to this. This is nothing new to me. I respect the grind, and I got a taste of what it feels like to be a pro. And so, like I say, I'm ready to attack this recovery and be back.
So there's no disappointment?
At all. None at all. There's another bump in the road. And like I say, I'm ready to share my testimony after I come back from this.
Isaiah, that's the right mindset. I mean, as a young guy who was going in the right direction to get hurt and then come back with that as his mindset, it's got to be refreshing to hear.
Absolutely. He got the Nino Brown earrings going on. He's feeling good. No, I mean, he has a positive outlook. I mean, that's what everybody and his coaching staff in the front office had to say about him. Not only his attitude, but his approach to the game, and you see another example of it right there.
So, Barry, of course, coming from a safety mindset in your own right, is it possible to maybe take that versatility that he used as a linebacker and fill that role with a safety with some of these young guys on the back end?
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a multitude of players out there trying to fill that role as that chess piece. I mean, you got Marquise Bell out there, and then you also got a guy like Jabril Cox, and that's who I'm looking forward to kind of fill this role, that opportunity that he has out there to show that he belongs on this team and that he can show this coaching staff that he can be a consistent member of this defense. He hasn't been able to do that so far in his short career, but this is a big opportunity, and hopefully he can take advantage of it.
Yes, Jabril Cox will take first and second down in short yardage situations, and Bell will take the passing situations, dime and nickel.
Yeah, I like really the versatility. And Dan Quinn's always talked about a positionless defense, of making things confusing on the offense. It's going to make it a little bit more interesting now that these safeties are going to have to be positionless by coming up into the box, playing that linebacker role. We've seen it with Jaron Kearse. They can make something out of one of these guys in a role like that. Demarvion Overshown out for the season, a huge blow to this Cowboys team. But when we come back, how are the guys around Demarvion Overshown going to step up this season? Is an encore performance in store for Dorrance Armstrong and some of these edge rushers for the Cowboys defense?
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. Reliant, official energy provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. And by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. This segment is brought to you by the NFL Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan.
This past Sunday, Sam Williams, edge rusher for the Cowboys, was arrested on charges of possession of a controlled substance and unlawfully carrying a weapon. The Cowboys are continuing to monitor this situation. Jerry Jones saying on Tuesday that they don't expect it to really jump in to the Cowboys' second-round player out of Ole Miss, and hopefully he's back with the team sooner rather than later. As we welcome you back in to Special Edition from the Star in Frisco, there are some repercussions of Sam Williams and the arrest because there are some maybe dominoes that will fall later on. Of course, that is up to the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. But let's talk about some of the guys around Sam Williams, because there's a lot of expectations for this edge rusher class. It starts with Micah Parsons, starts with D-Law, but then there are some guys after that, waves of defensive ends that are going to make an impact. Who do you think can really step up and fill some of those roles and some of those snaps throughout the year?
I think there's two names that you have to go to. I think number one is going to be Dorrance Armstrong. Dorrance Armstrong was second on this team in sacks last year with 8.5. And then right behind him, you have the guy I believe is going into his 8th year, and that's Dante Fowler Jr. And he had 6.5 sacks himself. Both of those guys are going to be huge contributors, not only on third down situations, but simply just trying to get back there and affect the quarterback.
Well, for me, it's going to have to be Dante Fowler as well as Armstrong, but for me, it's Fowler. I mean, this guy is a freak athlete, has all the ability to be a premier pass rusher in the National Football League. He just has to get back to that consistency. If he can get his play back to where he was in Jacksonville or even with the LA Rams, this is going to be a scary sight for opponents coming off the edge.
And I agree, because Dorrance Armstrong, I think his strong suit, even though he had 6 to 8 sacks last year, I think his strong suit is stopping the run game. So we can play both of these guys, one in a pass rush situation with Fowler and the other with Armstrong versus the run.
It always seems like the great defenses in the NFL have these tiers, these layers of edge rushers, the speed off the edge. Barry, compared to some of the defenses that you played on, how does it stack up to this point?
It stacks up with the best, and I played with some of the greatest D-lines out there. And this one right here, when you talk about rotational players, see, the offensive line tackles, they can't rotate. They're out there for the entire game. Defensive line edge rushers, they get to rotate, so they're getting fresh legs in there every so often. And if you got guys like Fowler, Parsons, D-Law out there that's continually putting that pressure on quarterbacks, it's going to be hard for opposing offensive linemen.
Not to mention the interior of that defensive line looks to be beefed up a little bit as well. Of course, Mazi Smith put in the mix, Jose Digizua going into year number 3. There's expectations for the outside, but what about the interior guys? Who can muddy things up for this Cowboys defense? When we come back on Special Edition, is the ceiling high enough for Osa Odigizua?
This segment was brought to you by the NFL Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan. This segment is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
Welcome back into Special Edition as we continue to look forward to the regular season for the Dallas Cowboys. Isaiah Stanback, Barry Church, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans from the Star. And, well, we talked in the last segment about edge rushers. Plenty of tiers of edge rushers. The talent is certainly there across the board. But now it looks like Dallas has invested enough to their interior defensive line to bring some excitement and maybe open things up on the edge as well. Let's start with Osa Odighizuwa. He was one of those early investments, a third-round pick from 2021. It's crazy that he's already going into year number 3, Nate, but he looks like he's heading in the right direction and somebody that could play an impact on that first level.
His first 2 preseason games, he was outstanding. He was making plays in the backfield. His rush game is on par. But his pass rush game is even stepped up a level. This guy is going some places, and he is moving fast.
Yeah, without a doubt, Osa has a chance to be a stud on that interior force right there. When you look at him, this is a guy who came in, and each year he's improved, whether it's tackles, sacks, pressures, he's improved, and that's what you love to see from a player. And just looking at the clips from the preseason game, this guy seems like an immovable object in the middle of the field. And when you're playing a linebacker or a down safety in the box, you love playing behind guys like this because he doesn't let that offensive lineman get to the second level. He allows you to run sideline to sideline. So hopefully he can continue his stellar play going into the regular season.
He's a complete disruptor. Yes. And when you start talking about this defensive line and how many rotations they have, when you're Dan Quinn, you get into a third down rushing situation, you're able to move Osa onto the inside, and you're also able to put D-Law right next to him on the interior defensive lineman. And then you can go out there and roll through the rest of the defensive ends that you have. But he's a complete problem, and he's going to be able to create some pressure through the interior defensive line.
And Odighizuwa can show some flex of being that 3 technique, being the 1 technique as well. But you got a couple big 1 techniques up front at the nose tackle spot. That's Mazi Smith, of course, first-round pick out of Michigan. And then Jonathan Hankins. And you have Jonathan Hankins come in again, second year that he's been in the organization. But, Barry, how much does having a veteran leading Mazi Smith play an impact?
It's huge because Hankins, he's a vet in the game. He knows all the nuances, the tricks of the trade to kind of improve your game as a defensive tackle. And if he can get that knowledge down to Mazi and let him understand that this isn't college anymore. You know, everybody in the National Football League is extremely strong. So he's not going to be able to just bully his way back into the backfield and throw guys around. If he's able to basically get that knowledge to Mazi and improve his game, this interior rotation for the Dallas Cowboys can be stellar.
Hankins is key for Mazi. Mazi has to watch film on this guy. Mazi has to get in his hip pocket and say, what are you thinking here? What do you see here? Because if Mazi can ever learn that technique is first, playing with your mind, then all that energy and that strength that he has will play a great role for him.
Jonathan Hankins is like the Candyland board for Mazi Smith. It allows for you to just skate across the board and not have to take the long way. You know, he's been there before.
He's the ladders.
Absolutely, man. Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So he has the wisdom, and he can allow for him to get that knowledge that he would have to take a long time getting reps for. It's absolutely, to Nate's point, he's absolutely everything for him.
So what about the guys that are going to back up Mazi, Hankins, Osa Odighizuwa? Guys like Neville Gallimore, Quentin Bohanna, Chauncey Golston. Is the depth enough there, Isaiah, to where this defense can be comfortable having that rotation of guys?
I think you have the rotation of guys. I'm not sure that you have the rotation of run stoppers. And that's where the conversation has to change. And you have other guys that are very capable and productive, but you only have 2 run stoppers on this defense.
Yeah, no, you have more now. Because by you drafting an asset number 1 with Mazi and Jonathan Hankins is starting with us at the year, Bohannon, it's time to go to work, baby. Let's pick it up. That's the bottom line. You either compete or you gone.
I'm with you on that. I mean, this depth they have here is great, and hopefully each one of those players that you named, Kyle, can step their game up in a way to where we're not getting rushed on for 200 yards in games like that. So these guys have got to get better when it comes to the rushing attack. I think they're great pass rushers, but interior, they have to be able to stop the run to have a successful defense.
I think one of the early, at least position groups of interest is this defensive tackle group, because it looks like on paper, with all the names that we just mentioned, they have depth. But even in that second preseason game against Seattle, they gave up 141 yards on the ground. They gave up 4.5 yards per carry. It was very similar of a stat line in week 1 of the preseason against Jacksonville. Now, that's a lot of rotation of guys, but for the most part, there's still work to be done on this defense in terms of stopping the run up front. And you're hoping that guys like Smith and Gallimore and Osa Odighizuwa can continue to press forward. We'll continue to press forward here on Special Edition when we come back. What about the backups at quarterback? Will Greer, Cooper Rush, how are they looking going into the regular season?
This segment was brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
This time last year, it really appeared that the Cowboys had a question at backup quarterback. Was it Cooper Rush? Was it Will Grier? And, of course, Cooper Rush doing what he did in 2022 was certainly a way to secure that spot going into the next season. But, gentlemen, as we start looking ahead to 2023, is that position still safe for a guy like Cooper Rush, or could he be challenged by Will Grier or maybe another quarterback that's out on the open market at some point?
Rush does not have to rush anymore. He has secured his spot, that's for sure. Last year they were going back and forth between himself and Grier, but that is no longer the case. He's had a great preseason. He had a great training camp. That's Cooper Rush I'm speaking on. Will Grier, on the other hand, he's still figuring things out. You heard Coach McCarthy speak about how he needs to take the easy plays and continue to put this team in positive situations. We haven't seen that consistently enough, and therefore he's found his way into the number 3 spot at this point.
Yeah, this is all Cooper Rush's job. I mean, it's all sewn up. When you go 4-1 in the National Football League, that's not an easy thing to do, and he was able to go out there and do that. He did a great job taking care of the football, and he had complete control of the offense. And at the end of the day, that's all you can ask of your backup quarterback is when the main guy goes down, when Dak Prescott goes down, can we still have an opportunity to win? And Cooper Rush showed that he's able to do that.
So with Cooper Rush taking over that QB2 spot and locking it up, Nate, when you look at Will Grier, has he done enough to stay on the roster, or should they continue to look elsewhere to maybe upgrade that QB3 spot?
In talking to Isaiah Stanback, our resident quarterback, he tells me that he has to just be a little bit more secure with the football. That's what he's been inconsistent. So if he gets a little bit more secure, and they believe in that, he's the man.
Yeah, for Will Grier, it just comes down to decision-making. I think he gets caught in a dill pickle between him wanting to utilize his legs and him trying to make a play. So with that, he just has to trust the offense and just take what's given to him. I understand you want to make the play, you want to force something at times, but sometimes, man, you just got to use your legs or just take the sack.
Yeah, and that's some of the things that Will Grier has struggled throughout the preseason with and continued to push going into the regular season. It'll be interesting to see which quarterbacks come on the open market as cutdowns happen this week as well, and whether Dallas is interested in any of those quarterbacks. But when we come back on Special Edition, we will wrap things up. And DeMarcus Ware getting some extra love from the Cowboys. Where's he headed next for the Pro Football Hall of Famer?
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, was brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. And by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys.
I always looked up at the top at the Ring of Honor, and I said, man, I want to be right there. I still know the exact same spot at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. And every single time I came out of the tunnel, I looked to the left and I said, I want to be right there. And it was that same spot at the Dallas Cowboys old stadium, the same spot at the new stadium. And it wasn't about me letting the guys down that were up in the Ring of Honor. It was becoming one of those guys and saying, I'm a star. And now you go shine in a way that it needs to shine.
Cowboys great DeMarcus Ware inducting into the Ring of Honor. He's the 23rd member, the first player to be inducted since 2015 when Darren Woodson went in. He's the first member of the Ring of Honor since Gil Brandt in 2018. Back here with Isaiah Stanback, Barry Church, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Isaiah, Barry, you both played with DeMarcus Ware. What were some of your thoughts on how he was a teammate and the honor that he's now starting to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he's getting his flowers now. Yeah. I mean, D. Ware was a great player, even better human, and I think anybody who's had the opportunity to share a locker room and be on the battlefield with him would say the same.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, much deserved. I mean, this has been the summer of DeMarcus Ware. I mean, you get the Hall of Fame, you talking about the Ring of Honor. I saw him cutting the ribbon over at the Miller Lite House the other day, so it's much deserved. Like you said, this is a great man, an even better human being out there. Was a heck of a teammate, and I just couldn't see anybody else that deserves as much as he did, and I'm glad for him.
I remember when they drafted him, man, he came out to UNT, your old school.
Oh, yeah.
He was doing a camp, and he said, Mr. Newton, he said, what can I do? Just help me out there. I said, man, don't let them put your hands on you. And boy, he didn't let them put their hands on you all the way to a Super Bowl. So, hey, my hat's off to you, young man.
Did you ever have to block anybody as good as DeMarcus Ware? Do you think you could have blocked D. Ware? Or would he
Lawrence
have gotten
Taylor's
a
on
sack?
my resume.
Oh, okay. That's all right. That's a bit of a flex. That's a bit of a flex.
I love it.
I know you're playing wide receiver a couple times. Do you have to go down and maybe crack block on the side a little bit, or no?
Yeah, Dwight Freeney. That's what he's
Oh, so much fun. And you could hear DeMarcus Ware talking about the location of the stadium where he wanted to be. If anybody knows anything about location, it's
Yes.
Jerry Jones.
No,
So maybe
yes.
he'll have to bring that up a little bit and see if he can put his name in the spot he was talking about in his press conference. Jerry Jones announcing that earlier this week. But that does it for us on Special Edition. For Isaiah, Barry, Nate, and our entire crew, I'm Kyle Yeomans. We'll see you next week.